All right, so in the last video, we talked about the individual generals, and this one we're going to talk about army composition, kind of how to One thing I want you to take note of is as we go through this process, look at the power, the combat power. It's only 1580 right now. It was a little bit higher than that, but then we took a little bit of cohesion hit because we were trying to move regions, so now it's 1580. But this is going to go up considerably as we restructure our army. Why is that? The number of troops doesn't go up, right? I mean, this brigade here of 153 power is 3,042 troops and 616 cavalry, and that does not change, but its power does go up and down. Why is that? Just think of it this way. Right now, we have, I think, 11 generals. Let's see, 4, 8, yep, 11 generals. None of whom really have any particular role. Like, they don't know what they're doing, why they're there. They're just kind of hanging out, telling Johnston what they think, but they don't really have any. They don't have any commands, basically, right? They don't have any troops that they can tell to do what they're to do. So if you were to go into battle like this with however many troops is here, I'm not sure if I could figure that out. Yeah, I don't know how many troops I have here, but basically, Johnson would go, "Hey, Bragg, I want you to go I want you to cover the left flank." And be like, "Okay, with what? I don't have a command. I don't have any troops." "Oh, okay, let me give you this brigade, that brigade, and this brigade." Very inefficient, right? Because then Bragg would have to go out, find those brigades, tell them where they're going. He may not know who he's working with, whatever, right? Completely disorganized, complete chaos. Unless you had a chain of command and a structure where each of your generals actually had forces under his command that he was telling what to do, right? That's what Civil War II does. It gives you that ability to structure your military accordingly. Bear in mind that if you start in April of 61 in the Grand Campaign, this is what you're left with. You're kind of left with this mesh of craziness where there really is no chain of command. So just bear that in mind. October 61, you can create what's called divisions, and then in I think March 62 is when you can create corps. And once you create corps, that's when it gets really fun in terms of mixing and matching. So why create an army structure? Why not just play the game like this? Well, it all comes down to command points. This number over here. This is huge. I think between command points and supply, if you don't really have a good understanding of either one of those, even if you're really good at everything else in this game, you're probably going to lose, because these just control so many different things in the game that it just makes a huge difference. We could have a command penalty of 35% with this 1580 force and go after a very well-organized force of, like, say, 400, and the 400 would probably win. Because this just drives so many things and our structure is such a mess right now. So what are command points? All right, so you have command points, which is this number in brackets, so 7. And then you have what's called, what are they called? Command cost. Sorry, okay, I kind of drew a blank there. So this total stack of troops, all right here, requires 62 command points to be fully effective. So I guess the best way to describe it is properly led. And so this just ain't gonna cut it, right? Because we got 11 generals here, but we have 7 command points. What the hell is going on here? Especially when you understand that for each star that a general has, that gives 4 command points. So Johnston by himself should be giving 12 command points, but he's not, and that'll become evident here in the later in this video. So first thing to note for command points, your generals by themselves, without any other attributes, can provide a total of 16 command points. Okay? Just keep that in mind. They can provide 16 command points. And then through special units or special traits that the commander may bring to the battlefield, kind of like Ulysses S. Grant provides some really awesome bonuses to command points, that can go up from the base of 16. So if you recall from our last video, we're talking about Johnston and his 4 strategic value. He can pass down an additional 2 command points to his core commanders. So his core commanders will have 16, theoretically. That's the base number they can have. And then they get an extra 2 working under Albert Johnston. All right, so that's command points. It's kind of rough nitty-gritty of it, but just know that when this is red, that's bad. We don't want it to be red. So we need to find a way to make this not red. And this 35% also reduces your overall strength by 35%. So this structure could be a lot more powerful if we were to structure it properly, which right now is just a complete mess. Okay. So how do we do that? All right. So assuming it's March 62 or whatever date it is you can make cores, I think a top-down approach is the best way to go. So who's going to be your army commander, and then who is going to be your corps commander, and so forth. By the way, before I jump in a little bit further, if you recall a little bit earlier, I said that each star provides 4 command points. So Johnston should be providing 12, and then Beauregard should be providing another 12. So that right there between the two of them should cap this out at 16. Protoburrow, why isn't it 16? It's because right now we're considered what's called an independent stack. So independent stacks receive a penalty of 50%, which means he only provides half his command points for a total of 8. All right, so independent stacks, in other words, stacks that have no chain of command, they're off doing their own little thing, can only have a total of 8 command points. So again, you're like, well, okay, you said 8, but why is it 7? It's 7 because we have Bragg here who's dragging us down because he's a little pissed off dude, and he gives us a -1 command point. It's like, thanks, bro. So that's why it's only 7. But it's because we're independent command. If we were to make this an army, I believe it'll immediately go up to 16, which you'll see in a moment. But let's do that. Okay, so Johnston's the senior most commander here, so we're going to make him an army commander. So you just go here where it says form army. Boom, there you go. Right? Now all of a sudden we have a chain of command. We're no longer an independent command. So his command points went up to 17 instead of 7. Now it could be 18, but again, Bragg's dragging us down, and somebody in here is giving us a +2 somewhere, and I don't know who that is. I'm not going to dissect it, but someone here is giving us a +2. Oh, that's right. Duh. So, okay, again, the generals provide you a 16. Johnston, because of his strategy rating, remember we talked about the 4? He is you subtract 2 from this, so he has a 2 strategic that he contributes to the control to the command points, and then we have that -1 from Bragg, and that's why we have 17. So 16 plus 2 because of his strategy, 18 -1 from Bragg. Right, so now we have this chain of command, and that's how one way you can start affecting your command points. Okay, so what I did was I took Withers out of the Army of the Mississippi to demonstrate what independent stack means, because it's very, very important to understand, because it'll tell you, kind of explain how this command point thing works. Now, again, the Army of Mississippi, we created that. We made Johnston the commander of the Army of the Mississippi. That instantly jumped us from 7 command points to 17. Again, it should be 18, but Bragg's here weighing us down. But really all that means is now he's an army commander, so now he has the opportunity, if he wants, to create a chain of command below him to better organize his forces. So we're still suffering that 35% hit because we need 58 total command points to make this stack work. So we got Withers over here. He's all hanging out. He's partying it up. He's an independent stack because he does not fall underneath Johnston yet. So again, he's a 1-star, so he should be bringing a total of 4 command points. But he's not. He's only bringing 2 because he's an independent command. And remember, independent command, you suffer that 50% hit to command points. So he's only bringing 2 to the show here, whereas if he was under the Army of the Mississippi and he was within a chain of command, he'd get 4. And then you say, okay, well, where's this 4 coming from? Why are we 10% short? Well, if you hover over the particular unit that you are trying to command, it'll tell you how many command cost is needed for that particular unit. So here it's 4. Note that cavalry units may be a lot cheaper, for example, especially in the West, where you have like rangers that have maybe 1 or no command cost. If you look up here for the cavalry units here, this cavalry unit only has a command cost of 1, and he only has a command cost of 1. So you could use 1 brigadier general separate from the chain of command in an independent stack, commanding 2 cavalry units without any hit to command cost. Whereas like here, notice we have 5 units. They all require 1 command cost, totaling 5. We have 2 brigadier generals that are outside the chain of commands. They have independent stacks, so they bring to the table 4 command points for 5%. Okay, and then note here, I'm going to show you what happens when we... Okay, so we can only bring 8 total. I'm out of 1 stars. No. Anyways, I was going to show you. We could put 5 1-stars here. It'll still stay at 8. Because for independent stacks, the max you can do is 8 command points. You can't go any higher than that. So we could put 10 brigadier generals here, and it's not going to go up. It's going to stay at 8. All right. So I just want to demonstrate that as well. So it is possible to operate with independent stacks. Absolutely. Just bear in mind that your independent stacks are going to be small cavalry type units, or a couple of militia, because militias are like 1 command point each, something like that. And they're going to have to be fairly small because you're limited to 8 command points total for an independent stack. All right. So we're going to stick him back in the Army of the Mississippi for now. Now we're back up to 62 command points necessary to field the Army of the Mississippi. So what do? We don't want to have this red. This is terrible. What do we do? What we do is we create corps. So before we do that, I just want to point out that if we wanted Beauregard to be the Army commander rather than Johnston, because Beauregard is not as senior as Johnston, you're going to piss off some people. So what we can do is we can click Johnston. But like, yeah, dude, you're just not cutting it. That stash, nope. Beauregard's rocking the stash far better than you are. So we're going to fire you. Firing is going to cost you 4 national morale and 20 victory points. This cost need not be paid if a commander with a higher seniority is appointed to the newly freed Army HQ. So if we were to fire him and put Beauregard in command, that clearly is not going to be the case. And so we're going to suffer the 4 national morale and 20 victory points. Okay. However, if there was another 3-star in the area that was senior to Johnson, say with a seniority of 2 or 1, then you're not going to suffer that hit. And as long as you do it all in the same turn, you're good. So we could fire him now, put another 3-star who has a seniority of 2 in charge of the Army of Mississippi, and you're not going to suffer that hit because it's basically following the chain of command, that sort of thing. So just bear that in mind, that firing commanders does have consequences, especially if they have a 50 politics. That could create some serious issues for you. But okay, so we get the Army of the Mississippi, and we want to create a chain of command. We want to give all these commanders, or at least most of them, troops to basically give orders to, so that we can tell, for example, Breckinridge, hey dude, we want you to attack the left flank. He'd be like, I got this. I'm going to take my troops and do it. Right now, he has no troops. We're going to make sure now that he has troops. So we are going to create corps. So corps commanders have to be 2-star or higher. Bear that in mind. Historically, in the Union, corps commanders were typically 2 stars. In the Confederacy, typically corps commanders were 3 stars. So keep that in mind. Although for this game, you can certainly, if you want, as a Confederate, have 2-star corps commanders. But so we're going to basically just take Polk, make him a core commander, and go from there. So we're going to pull him out of the stack. So now he's hanging out over here by himself. And then let's see, we're going to take Hardy and pull him out of the stack. So I'm playing it safe right now, right? I'm taking the 2 senior most commanders and doing that. I want to say, yeah, let's do that. Let's take Polk, and then let's take Chethia, who's actually not, he's subordinate to Hardy. See what happens. Okay, so Polk, put him over there. Let's take Chethia, put him there, just so we can see this here. So here's our army. We still have all of our troops in our army, but now we're going to start putting them in the core. So we're going to take Polk. We're going to go, hey, dude, we want you to create a core, which is a nice little tab here. So we do that. All right, there's Polk's core. Chethium, we're going to give him a core. Cool. I don't think... I don't know if we suffer any consequence by doing that. They're all 2 stars, although Chethia is less in seniority to Hardy. So that's interesting to note that you can certainly do that. Okay, so now we have our cores, and first thing to note, click your army. It'll tell you who the cores are that report to the army. And if you click one of the cores, it'll tell you the army you report to. So that's kind of cool. And then here's the stack. Now, granted, all of these are here right now because we're all in the same region. But the cool thing with cores is that you can operate within multiple regions of a theater with the same army, right? We could take Polk and stick him in Holly Springs, and we could take Chetham and stick him over here in this area, and then keep Johnston here in the middle. And we've essentially spread out our forces while at the same time maintaining the cohesion and the command points and that sort of thing. So just kind of keep that in mind. Notice here, he's got 10 command points to rock with. That's because he's got 4, 8, because he's got 2 stars. And then he's getting 2 from Johnston. Because again, Johnston's strategic rating is 4. Subtract 2 from that, he's got 2. So he passes down 2 to his core commanders. I do want to point out here that notice here his strategic rating is 4, his offensive rating is 0, and his defensive rating is 1. Watch this. Nothing happens. Cool, right? If you make him a division commander, though, it goes down. So you may ask yourself, why would I want to make any of my generals division commanders if they're going to suffer a hit on the command rating? I'll explain that in a little bit. Just know that when you do division command, they're going to suffer a hit to their overall ratings. When you do create a core, no, they're not. However, if you promote them to army, it may have some negative consequences. Good example, John Bell Hood was an amazing division commander, and he was the one who led the Texan Brigade at the 7 Days Battle, Antietam, Gettysburg, on towards Little Round Top. Suffered lost his arm because of that. Lost his leg, I believe, either at Antietam or at Chickamauga. I can't remember. But he's the one that replaced Johnson's, who was the Army of the Tennessee during the siege of Atlanta, and was just a terrible, terrible army commander. I mean, he single-handedly destroyed the Army of Tennessee. So this game kind of does the same thing, is be wary of who you're promoting. Just because someone's a great division commander doesn't mean they're going to be a good corps commander. Just because they're a good corps commander doesn't mean they're going to be a good army commander. There's no way to predict it, which I think is pretty realistic, because you really wouldn't have any idea in real life whether someone would make a good corps commander, unless you actually sat back and looked at the man you were promoting and said, you know what, because of A, B, and C, he's going to be a good corps commander. So just take note of that. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to pause. I'm going to build up some of these cores, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk about it. Okay, so I went ahead and just took everything out of the Army of the Mississippi with the exception of Johnston, Beauregard, and Bragg. There's 2 lines of thinking for armies, and I'm not going to say one way is better than the other. Some recommend it's the all or nothing approach. So basically, you either have you have basically a stack of troops in your actual army HQ. So making it basically 3 stacks of troops instead of 2 stacks here. Or you do what's kind of traditionally done, which is, hey, you got Johnston, whoever his execs may be and people that he relies on for advice, but Johnston doesn't actually command any troops. He tells Polk what to do and Chetham what to do, and they carry out the orders accordingly. So kind of that's how Lee conducted himself. Lee didn't actually have any troops directly under his command per se. Instead, he told Longstreet and Jackson or Ewell or so forth what to do, as opposed to actually telling the individual division commanders, brigades, and that sort of thing what to do. So I like to play it this way. I think it's a little more realistic, more fun. You have like an army HQ where you just have the general or generals dictating the field of battle. And then you have your corps that are actually the ones that are actually carry out the particular battles. So now the one downside to doing this, I will admittedly note this, that you lose out on all these command points that you could really play with. So that's certainly a downside. You could really treat your army stack as like a 3rd corps. And there's nothing wrong with that. The one catch is apparently if you go into battle, the army stack cannot initiate battle. So if you go in with the offensive posture and your army is your biggest stack out of your 3, your army will not be the one to initiate battle. It's going to be your corps. So your army only reinforces your corps. They basically stay behind your lines and reinforce your corps during the battle. And depending on how quick that battle may be, maybe your army doesn't even get involved. So just keep that in mind. That's one caveat to having units in your army stack. It's definitely not a game changer per se that makes it where you don't want to do it. Just be aware that that's one thing you'll have to kind of juggle around. Maybe instead of using a corps as a reserve, you use your army as a reserve. That way you don't have 2 reserves. So just know that's out there. Okay, so we have our corps here. We have 2 corps. We've got Chetham's corps and Polk's corps. And notice we have a bunch of generals in here. We're up to 18 available command points for Chetham and 18 available command points for Polk. Again, how do we get that? We got 4, 8, 12, 16, and then that caps out the base of what we can do. So these 2 don't contribute anything to command points because we were capped out to 16, but then we get 2 from Johnston, who provides an additional 2 through his strategic rating. And the same thing for this. These 2 guys aren't contributing anything to command points. But now we have all these troops here, and we still are at the 33% and the 35%. So quite honestly, we're almost worse off than we were before, because now we've got 3 separate stacks, but we're still suffering a 35% command penalty, and we're not benefiting from Johnston's surprise chance or anything else. So how do we fix that? How do we rectify that? We create divisions. That's what we do. We create divisions. So how do you do that? So essentially think about it this way. A division commander in the Civil War usually controlled multiple brigades. So a division commander would go into battle. Usually divisions were probably, I'd say, around 8 or 10,000, maybe higher depending on whether it's Confederacy or the Union. And within that, say, 8,000 man division, you had 5 brigades of troops. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to give Withers a division, and under him, he's going to have multiple brigades. So how do you do that? You click the commander, you go here, you say enable division commander for this leader. You then hold down control while having the commander selected, and you select all the brigades you want him to have. You can have up to 18 elements in a division. So we go, let's see here, we got 3, 6. So let me just click as many as I can. Notice it won't let me create a division. But if we do this, eventually this pops up. See that? Combine. So if I go here, Nope, that's more than 18. Okay, cool, take it off. Now we go here, combine units. Boom. So now Withers runs a division, and he reports directly to Polk, and he has upwards of 18 elements within his division. So again, you can kind of look at these different elements, say, okay, what's in it, blah, 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 and that's how you create your divisions. And then note that Hinman and Hardy are not commanders. They're just generals right now. They're kind of execs to Polk. So if you want them to actually command troops on the battlefield, you got to do like you did with Withers here, which is create a division. Now note, when you hover over him, his overall stats go from 311 to 100, which is, that sucks. But that's because, So that's because as a division commander, you're really relying on your core commander to provide you the strategic decision making on the battlefield and that sort of thing. And your army commander bring in the offensive and defensive bonuses to the battlefield. So just bear in mind, you're going to take a hit on the command rating when you create divisions. But the reason it's beneficial for doing that is, as you can see, we've now reduced our command penalty to just 31 command cost instead of whatever it was before. What was it before? It was 35, right? So that's how you do that. So we'll go here. Let's see here. Let's create there. Just gonna do this really fast. Okay, we're gonna give Hinman division. Give him a division commander. We get Hardy a division. All right, so how are we looking now? All right, so there we go. Now we're down to 23. So now we're down to 22%. So what do we do about that? We either bring another general in and give him another division, or we move some of these troops out into like the Army of Mississippi or another corps. But you can mix and match everything. We can take this, put it in the Army. I'm going to do a separate tutorial on artillery, so I'm not going to go into different strategy for using artillery. But there's definitely some preferences for people on how they like to do their artillery. But now we're down to 20%, so we've got 10. And then if we give this up here, there you go. So we got 3 divisions of troops, and then Polk is directly commanding a brigade of infantry, sharpshooters, and cavalry. So this is the core level. This is what's going on at the core, and then you have these the division. Ideally, you wouldn't have anything at the core except maybe like artillery or something like that. But again, this is just demonstrative to kind of show you how to go about creating a hierarchy of military. Now notice, all of our sudden our strength's gone up to 1153. Very interesting, right? So now look, it's 1153. Let's disband everything here. Now we're down to 750. Same number of troops, but we don't have the same command rating because we are back up to the 35%. So not only does your power go down, even though you have the same number of troops, but then you also suffer those other negative modifiers I discussed previously with regards to command percentage. It's very costly. It drastically reduces your ability to be effective in the battle. Rate of fire, your first opportunity to fire, all those sort of things. So you want to create divisions wherever possible. And quite frankly, by the time you get to March or April 62, there's really no reason. I mean, really even October 61 when you create divisions, you really shouldn't have more than like 10% here. If you do, probably you need to shift stuff around because it's just not worth it. Your opponent, whether it's AI or otherwise, will have their command points under control, and so you're going to want to do that as well. All right, so again, really quick summary. How do we do this? We start off with this whole stack of independent commanded troops, so we can only have an 8 command point total for that. We then created a chain of command by creating an army, which then means at the base we could create 16 total command points just from the rank. And then any special attributes, such as Johnston as an army commander with his 2 additional points of strategic, and then any special units that might provide command points. Then we lost one because of brag. We got to 17. But then we were like way high because we had all these troops here. So we said, oh no, what do we do? We then created new stacks and said, hey, Polk, we want you to be a corps commander. Made him a corps commander. Chetham, made him a corps commander. And then we took all the troops out of the Army of Mississippi and stuck them in these corps. And then took some additional generals that we wanted to give division commands, put them in those corps. And then we just created corps commands. So we made Ruggles a division commander and gave him up to 18, clicking him and holding down control, giving him upwards of 18 elements to command. And in doing so, got the command rating way down. To almost the 18 that we need to run. Now, I'm not sure what's going on here. Why? Wow, that's because I didn't make him division commander. Duh. Alright, so now we're below it. We got 100% on our command cost, and we have the same number of troops in this corps as we did before. We've just gone ahead and actually created a actual hierarchy, and now notice our combat power is 1032, which is far more significant than it was previously. So that's how to create an army, corps, and division. Just bearing in mind, if you are in like October 61 and you haven't got to the point where you can create corps yet, you're just going to have armies that have lots of divisions within it. And then if you need more command points, just bear in mind that you can only put so many generals within a stack until you're capped out. So if you have divisions within an army, you can do 16. But if you have divisions that are their own independent stack, then they're only going to have 8. And this command cost is going to be dictated by the cost of each particular unit. So in this case, Woods Brigade is 4 command cost, Clayburns is 4, and so forth. So hopefully that was helpful for you. One thing I do want to note here, just to conclude before we close out this video, is that one the great thing with the army structure is that if you have, say, Polk over here, and you have Chetham here, and Polk is attacked, there's the opportunity for Chetham to move to the sound of the gun, which basically means that if Polk is attacked and anybody else in this army is attacked, the other corps will try to assist that other corps that is under attack. A very cool feature. It's really kind of how your army kind of you want to think about things. Don't move them as independent stacks. Move them as really one whole army in terms of your total strategic thinking, keeping them close enough together so that if one corps is attacked, the other ones can come in and help. That will definitely happen if they're all in the same region, so bear that in mind. But it may not happen if, say, Polk has this river in between. He may not be able to get across, either because his activation roll fails, or it takes him too long to get over here to help Polk out, or maybe because he's on a defensive posture, so he shows up but he doesn't really engage in the battle because he's being defensive. The way you get around that is to put him in offensive posture, so that if Polk is attacked, then when he arrives, he'll immediately engage in the battle and not hang back and not get engaged. So that's one major thing to be aware of, is moving to the sound of the gun. Keep your corps probably within a region of each other so they can support each other. And then bear in mind that your army may also move to the sound of the gun, but they're going to act in strictly reserve sort of posture. So they're going to be funneling troops to the front, but they're more than likely not going to actually jump to the front line themselves and engage in battle. They're simply going to support the corps. And then finally, one last thing you can do here is you can synchronize movement. I've heard synchronized movement isn't the most effective way to move your different units, but it's definitely an option if you want to. And what synchronized movement means is that if we want everybody here to go there, we're all in synchronized movement, then all 3 of them should move together and should arrive together. So even though Johnston can arrive here in 9 days, it's going to take him 14, so it's probably going to take him 14 because you're moving by synchronized movement. Just be aware of that under this tent tab, or rather the crossed muskets tab, you have different options here: sortie, forced march, move by rail, move by ravine movement, evade combat, that apply to your different things here. I'll cover that a little bit more in the combat tutorial in terms of movements along with the actual combat phase and how that works. But be aware you can synchronize movement, and hopefully this video is helpful for you if you're new to the game or you're coming back from a long hiatus and you don't remember how to play. It took me a long time to understand how all this worked, so hopefully this helps. And if you have any questions or any critiques, please feel free to leave a comment in the comments section. And if you found this video helpful, it's always much appreciated that you like the video, not just for my sake. I mean, obviously it makes me feel good. It strokes the ego a little bit, but it helps other people to find the video. So somebody else who wants to play this game who doesn't know how, the more views and likes this video gets, the more likely they're going to be able to find it, and hopefully it'll help them. So with that, thank you so much. Hopefully you'll check out the rest of the tutorials for this video.